So much of this weekend takes things up a notch. Road America is the fastest and longest track that we've run so far. And now we have a larger field and more classes than ever before. So let's start it all off by going as fast as we can with qualifying for the Zenith Racing Series. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Later, we'll be joined by Jonathan Grace and Sloan Pollisner on pit lane. Joey, this place really is one of the crown jewels in North American road racing.
It is America's national park of speed, and rightly so. Huge, long straightaways, monster brake zones, great opportunities to pass, and I think if you ask fans and drivers alike, always one of the best venues to go to, some of the best track food that you're always going to get here in North America. And I mean, talk about the racetrack. It doesn't really get much better than this, and it looks to be a beautiful weekend for some endurance racing.
Absolutely. Seeing a little bit of wind. Hopefully that won't affect our cars all too much as we're getting ready for our first class here shortly. The ZR4s are going to be kicking things off. 4 classes. I think that's one of the big talking points that we've got that's going to alter a little bit of the chemistry as well on the track, Joey.
Yeah, got multiple classes like you were saying. Going to start off with ZR4, then go to ZR3, ZR2 qualifying, and then end it with the ZP2 qualifying here, Joe.
Well, thankfully, we have feet on the ground letting us know what's happening out there. Let's go to Jonathan and Sloan to get the scoop.
Thanks so much, Joe and Joey. Jonathan and I are here where the pole awards will be presented after our qualifying sessions. This is the place where you want to be. This is where you're going to get your pole award, you're going to get your cool hat, and you're going to get to celebrate and prepare for the race that is going to be happening tomorrow. Jonathan, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great, and I'm feeling anxious and anticipatory, as I'm sure are our ZR4 class competitors. Joe and Joey mentioned it. The first time this season, the first time for the Zenith Racing Series that we've had all 4 classes represented. They'll each get a chance to qualify and then to race as well. And I'm curious how that's going to stack up. But what are you watching for in this session?
The ZR4 class, honestly, I think that we've got some incredible teams, some teams we've never heard of before, some teams that it's their very first time racing as a team together. I think the field is going to be pretty spread out, maybe. I don't know. But we're super excited to have this new class here and to see what's going to happen out on the track.
Thanks, guys. We'll head back down to them a little bit later on, and I'm sure there'll be all kinds of stories unfolding down on pit lane. Joey, I'm looking at some of our entries in that ZR4, and definitely cool to see a lot more makes of cars. It was very BMW heavy in the previous races, but I see a Porsche Boxster. I see a Corvette C8, a Toyota GT86 is going to be out there, and one you're very well familiar with, a Mazda Miata.
Yeah, I see that as well. So not that there is anything wrong with a whole bunch of BMWs on the racetrack. I'm all in favor of that, but you're right, Joe. Have a little bit of some variety with the addition of this ZR4 class. We've been used to the multi-class racing between, call it the ZR3s, the ZR2s, combined with those ZP2s. But here at Road America for Zenith Racing Series, we are adding this other production car class. ZR4 is the new addition.
Going to be fun to watch to see how that interacts, but more importantly, just glad to see more cars on the track as we get the green flag. Officially, the session has started, and you could see a few of them heading out towards the track now. This place very much denoted by its long straightaways. High speeds are the name of the game. Big top end, Joey. So in qualifying for some of the lesser powered cars, do you try and stay around other cars to get yourself a little bit more speed in the slipstream, or is it not worth getting potentially entangled with them?
That's always a talking point with how high speed Road America really is. And yes, technically, the lower the speeds in terms of the top speeds at the end of the straightaways, the more of an effect you can have in that draft effect and gaining time. However, you also have to manage, all right, am I going to be faster in certain corners than the car that I'm trying to draft behind? So it's a little bit of a two-edged sword. But to answer your question, Joe, yes, there is time to be gained if you can time the run on each one of these straightaways, and potentially up to a second, maybe even more than a second if you're really tucked up behind the bumper and trust your drafting partner.
First one we got out on track is the number 12 of the Porsche Boxster of Rockwell Autosport. Oakley currently behind the wheel of that one, coming down towards turn 5. This is one of the higher speed portions. Definitely one of the best passing spots on the track in most situations as he comes over the crest. But a feature that I don't think gets talked about enough at this circuit is that there is a lot of elevation change here. It does show up on camera, but I think the extent of it really can't be understood until you physically get to this track, Joey.
And the first half of it, call it maybe even first 2/3, relatively mild in terms of that elevation, but right about here, the exit of turn number 7, all of a sudden the racetrack starts to plunge down the hill. It's a tricky brake zone coming up into this left-hander where we're watching this Porsche Boxster driven by Oakley, the number 12 car. And then down through the carousel continues the downhill plunge. The kink feeds you into what is called kettle bottoms here on this racetrack, but it really is down into this canyon on the far side of the racetrack. And then once you reach the far end of that, call it back straightaway down there, turn number 12, Canada corner, it is a steep uphill climb. So I think that the majority of that elevation change definitely in the final third of this racetrack, and you're going to see a bunch of it as soon as this Porsche Boxster pops up here on this back straightaway and goes through this section.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the lowest parts of the track, if not honestly the lowest part of the circuit here at the Kettle Bottoms into Canada Corner. Other spot that will probably see a lot of overtaking attempts in through there. And then huge rise here up at Bill Mitchell Bend, turn 13. Now, one thing to watch out for during this qualifying is that they will have an alternate finish line where they will be taking the times of the cars. So that's where you can watch for them to pop up right here, where you see the Fly GRB sign over the track. So yes, normally you would see the times crop up as they crest the hill here and cross the very iconic start-finish line at this track, but it happens a little bit earlier. So watch for them try to set up to try and get the lap ready a little bit before they get to here rather than just heading out of that final corner.
And, I misspoke earlier. The driver ID hadn't popped up yet. It looks like it's Rockwell currently driving the number 12 car, that Porsche Boxster that we've got out there. And, yeah, we've got show 5 entries, at least here in qualifying for this ZR4 class. But right now, it is the sole Porsche out there on the racetrack. And, gosh, if you ask me, if you could have any racetrack in the world, right, let alone North America, to go out there and turn laps on all by yourself, this place has got to be dang close to the top of the list.
I mean, it looks like it is a beautiful day out there. We'll say the track is probably a tad hot. I'm showing 40 Celsius right now. That is getting up there and pretty slippery, no doubt. But you can see the modifications put onto this Porsche. Hopefully should be able to find some of that grip back a little bit. I'm with you in that I'm anxiously waiting to see if we get any of the other 4 in this class out onto the circuit, but no dice so far. First sector at a 108 for Rockwell currently. We'll see if that improves much as the session goes on. They do have a fair bit of time, 20 minutes to circulate around here, and we're down to less than 15 already.
Have yet to put a time down. This will be the first lap time, like you were saying, Joe, using that alternate start-finish line. Just in terms of the timing loop, when we get to the actual racing on Saturday and Sunday, we use the normal start-finish stand on the front straightaway. Get a nice aerial view of everything here at Road America. That's the go-kart track over there on the back side of the racetrack. Looks like a small two-wheeled event going on over there as we've got qualifying and really starting to wring the neck here. This number 12 car throwing it into Canada corner.
Yeah, glad that we're seeing Rockwell really start to pick it up and push what this car can do. Of course, they've had it practice already. First lap is going to be a 2:38.6, and that's probably why we have those full 20 minutes of qualifying, as it does take a bit to get around this track. So if you mess up a lap, you've used up a good chunk of the time during this session. But it's already starting another one. We'll see whether or not there's any improvement on the sectors. Naturally, the only car out there, it's purple for all three so far for the Boxster.
Usually that access road right there on the left is roughly the brake marker, and you see how deep he's able to take it, just carrying the momentum in these ZR4 classed cars, and not a care in the world in terms of the traffic right now. This is perfect, this graphic that we've got on the bottom right-hander. So we are going to see the sector times now, and we're going to have a good approximation of if Rockwell is improving in Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, and it looks like we've got our Corvette C8, the number 66 car, out there on the racetrack as well now.
Paragon Performance. So they're getting ready to go racing now as they are on their out lap. First sector, definitely an improvement for the Boxster. Lichty currently inside, as we're shown, the number 66 Corvette. Should have enough time to get one around, get a couple laps around here in the qualifying session. Be curious to see how the cars match up, because it is quite an interesting mix in this class. But for those unfamiliar, the way that they do this in the Zenith Racing Series is it is essentially a power to weight ratio per class. So it's very open into the modifications. It's not homologated like you see in some classes of racing in modern day. And that really allows you to bring some interesting cars to the series.
And yeah, speaking of interesting, I was just trying to find out a little bit more about this car right here, this number 66, because the Corvette C8, definitely a formidable weapon out there on the racetrack, and can't wait to see what kind of lap times that Lichty puts down here. Of course, is going to be starting lap number 1. Right about there is the timing loop. So we're going to be starting his first timed lap here in qualifying with, call it 11 and a half minutes remaining on the board.
Also not seeing the Boxster improving that much in the second sector. Last sector was an improvement, so the latest lap was 2:37.9. That was not quicker. So 2:37. Oh, excuse me. It is the fastest lap they have set. So that is an improvement for the number 12. Still don't have anybody else on the board, but we do at least have 2 cars on the circuit. I have to anticipate, with the grunt that you typically see underneath the hood of a Corvette, probably going to be very quick in a straight line here.
Well, and that's exactly what I was kind of questioning, right? When we typically think of a Corvette, we don't think of the, remember, in air quotes over here, the slowest of the production-based classes over here, ZR4. So I wonder what the modifications that are done to this Corvette C8, if it's mainly just grip-induced modifications to make sure that the car is ready to go road racing, and not a lot of horsepower per se. That would be kind of my guess, and it'll be very interesting to see where that speed is made, because you're right, Joe. Typically when we think about this car, it is going to be a rocket ship out there, especially on the straightaways.
Well, Sector 1 is almost all straightaways, and it is about 1.2 seconds quicker than the Boxster on its first attempt. So signs are indeed pointing towards it being a beast in the first part of the lap. Now, what about through this middle portion? This is perhaps the most technical part of the track here. Will it struggle maybe through this area?
Going down through the carousel, and I understand that we've got a little bit more information here on this Corvette, this number 66. Jonathan, what do you have for us?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. You wouldn't typically associate a C8 generation Corvette with all that mid-engine power. 490 brake horsepower is what this thing comes with from Chevrolet out of the box. It's been tapered down quite a bit to fit within the power-to-weight ratio. They have kept a lot of the interior componentry, like the dashboard. A lot of it has been stripped away with a dedicated racing seat and things like that. But it has met the parameters in its past tech, so it can race against a Porsche Boxster, a Mazda Miata, a Toyota GT86. More on that in a moment. moment, because that's capable of making a whole heap of power. But there's been a lot of custom modifications to this race car, a very, very rugged camshaft among them. All three of the drivers competing this weekend are very capable mechanics in their own rights, all from three different teams joining forces for the first time under the same banner this weekend. That camshaft is going to help a lot of that torque, especially when some of that top-end power has been taken away. But in speaking with the team this morning, they commented on the fact that it feels very strange in a Corvette of all cars, knowing that you might be gapped on the straights, but with the balance of that mid-engine race car, I suspect they would make it up in other areas as well.
And that is awesome information. That's exactly kind of what I was trying to dig out of there is, where is the modifications on this Corvette? And that was awesome to hear from Jonathan down there in the paddock and exactly what we're going to be seeing out of this Corvette, Joe. So with that information, what do you kind of think? You expecting to still see it be a little bit lagging on the straight line after putting down a lap that's 2.3 seconds in front of that Porsche Boxster?
Well, I think what he was saying about where it's going to make up in other areas is absolutely true, because you look at that 2.3 seconds, and it's going to be a force to be reckoned with. We're still waiting for that Toyota. There's also a BMW M2 going to be competing, and the Miata to hit the track, but they're not. They don't have much time. It's about 7.5 minutes left to go. Another purple sector for Lichty in the number 66, continuing to demolish times right now in the ZR4 class in that Corvette C8. So we'll wait to see what Sector 2 holds. Right now was quicker than the best by Rockwell in Sector 1 by almost 2 seconds in that sector alone.
Just getting things warmed up is Aaron out there on the racetrack. This is the fastest corner here, the kink. Turn number 11 on the racetrack. We see so many so close moments and drivers really putting the car on the absolute edge of adhesion through that area. And a lot of times it can pay off with an extremely rewarding lap time, as we see here the Corvette now going to climb up out of the elevation that is Canada Corner, that hole in the bottom of the track. Come up through turn at number 13 here. He's gone purple. We're about to see if he resets that fastest lap time, and it certainly seems so at 234.713, fastest overall still.
Impressive stuff. This is a place that is very familiar, of course, with that Chevy power. You'll often see those sort of Corvette parking lots that they'll get sometimes at some of the events where they'll all come together, show off what they've got. Hearing that the Miata might not be making it because they're still doing quite a bit of work on the machine. There goes the Porsche across the line. Last lap must have been a cool down lap because it was well off the pace. So maybe this is where he's finally getting it going, because I see him heading up that main straight past the trees over the crest. And remember, lap's already started just before turn 14, so we'll see what it looks like once he crosses the line just before turn 5 when the first sector ends.
And this is Alex Rockwell driving this car right now, the number 12 car. Really sailing it off into turn number 1. You see that wiggle there on the entry phase, really putting that car on the absolute limit of grip through all facets of that corner there. And you can kind of do that in turn number 1 because the run down here into turn number 3, not too terribly far down the road, but then you really want to focus on that exit because the turn number 3 exit leads you down this huge straightaway here, Joe. And in some cars, it almost seems like you're just waiting for those brake markers to appear on the right side.
Takes a long time to get down them, especially in cars like these, the ZR4s. He does finally slam on the binders. The nose dips, and he nicely puts it through turn 5 there. Looked like it was pretty handy. First sector was a 1:08.6. Still not competing with the Corvette, so Rockwell's got some room to make up. In fact, I think he didn't even hit his personal best. Meanwhile, still seeing lots of purple show up for Lichty in that number 66.
I see that as well. Yeah, purple sector number 1, purple sector number 2. He's somewhere in sector number 3 right now as we watch Alex here. This is coming down into the carousel. I have really enjoyed watching these two cars in the ZR4 class so far, because sometimes in qualifying, when you only have one or two cars out there, you're not necessarily worried about going out and pushing it to the absolute limit, as you see Lichty once again resets that fastest lap of a 234.0. But it certainly seems like both of these drivers out here, they're pushing the car to the absolute limit. I made the comment that even here on the first timed lap of this number 12 car, really pushing the limit going into Canada Corner.
I think he's going to have to find something to compete here with that 66. Managing to get it down, as you said, to that 234 flat now at this stage, nearly 4 seconds quicker than the fastest lap for the Rockwell Autosports car. Watching him head down towards turn 3, try to get the launch off of this corner along the Moraine sweep, and then really start to let that Corvette engine scream as it's going to head under, of course, the Sargento Bridge, another very iconic part of this track, and into the woods, which is another feature of this circuit you don't necessarily see as much anymore with modern racetracks. Very much takes you through the trees as they're close to the side of the track, which helps give you a sense of speed, honestly.
It's very much open and lots of grandstands, lots of cool places to watch in sector number 1, sector number 2. But you're right, once you get into the far section of the racetrack, you kind of go off into the wilderness that is Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. But pretty cool experience to drive around Road America. If you ever find yourself in the, call it Midwest, up in Wisconsin area, definitely find your way out to an event at Road America. Even if you can't get on the racetrack itself, it is just a fantastic place to go and walk around. It is literally upkept like a national park out there. It is America's national park of speed, after all.
We're getting down to the last available laps to run here. About 2 minutes left. It's towards the end of the lap for Lichty, at least for the time being, so I think it should easily be able to start the final run. Rockwell, should be able to get there in time. I think at this point, coming down towards turn 8 off screen currently. This is the braking into Canada Corner. And nice job just getting that car to rotate up through that right-hander. Then it switches back through Bill Mitchell Bend, where the blind crest will make it difficult to get the car to bite, crosses the line. This was not an improvement for the first time during this qualifying session for the Corvette C8, though.
Not an improvement, you're right. However, I think the fast lap is a 234.0 compared to a 234.10. That's pretty good consistency, and certainly seems that he's driving down the middle of the straightaway here. I wonder if he's going to go for one more lap, at least visually right here, Joe. It certainly seems like he's lifted off of the throttle and he's going to be bringing this Corvette in for at least a cool down lap. And there you see just kind of easing it into what is turn number 1.
Yeah, don't blame him if you feel like you've done everything you can. You're not under threat from losing that, which let's be honest, probably going to be a real shock if that 66 suddenly isn't on the pole. And the good news for the fans of Rockwell is that he has managed to start another lap. So the 12 is able to do one more if he wants. But, unfortunately, I just saw the car disappear from our map. So it looks like they're going to park it. And this qualifying session is effectively over.
So the number 66 car, the Corvette, will be our pole sitter in terms of that ZR4 class, because like you said, that Porsche Boxster already into pit lane and the Corvette on a cool down lap. You can see sector number 1 well off of the pace right now. So Aaron in that, call it silver, beautiful C8 Corvette, first time on the racetrack in terms of the Zenith Racing Series for the ZR4 class, and we've got our first pole sitter in that class.
Did a phenomenal job out there. Didn't even use up the entirety of the session on top of things. So great job by Aaron to manage that one. Unfortunately, won't get to see any more shots of that number 12 now that they have decided to call it quits on this qualifying session. And don't worry, we have more coming after this one, as we will have the ZR3 class coming up next. Then it's off to the ZR2s, and finally the ZP2s to bring us the action here in Zenith Racing Series qualifying for this weekend's action. And it's back to kind of our traditional format after we had our first mega enduro, I guess we could call it, back at VIR. Joey, going to be 2 7-hour races.
Yeah, I like that, the mega enduro. We're going to have some even longer events later on this year. Can't wait for those. As you see Aaron here just kind of cooling down this Corvette, slowly going to be bringing it back in here. But you're right. Split up this time at Road America. We don't just have the one mega enduro. It is the twin 7-hour races. I think we get going. What is about 8 a.m. tomorrow? I think is green flag, maybe even 9 a.m. on Saturday, and then just a touch earlier on Sunday is when we kick things off for racing this weekend.
There you can see him bringing it back into pit lane. A pretty steep uphill at this portion. So if you get your fuel numbers wrong, you certainly don't want to be caught with your pants down. It's going to be hard to coast your way up to your pit stall. And let's not forget, it's not going to be something unheard of, as we did have a couple calculation errors last time out with some of our cars. So certainly want to make sure that you're doing all the math right here as he's going to find his way down to our pole ceremony here, joining Jonathan and Sloan in pit lane. Get his thoughts about being the first pole sitter for the ZR4 class here in the ZRS history. And in the meantime, we will be getting the next class also on track very shortly. So ZR3 is going to be joining us as we take a look at the results of this one. As a Zenith Racing Series finds themselves, or excuse me, no, this is not the results. This is just letting us know that the ZR3 qualifying is going to be beginning here in just a moment. But regardless, excited about the changes that we've brought this ever-evolving series, and its inaugural season has been a fun one, as we've been discovering almost alongside the teams and drivers themselves just how to try and make this all play out. As I can see, they're getting close to getting a chat with that driver soon, Joey.
Yeah, I think they pulled it all the way over there to tech, and the driver just was basically going to pull it up onto the scale pad. So can't wait to get a chance to talk with the Aaron down there, who was in the car that entire qualifying session. Went out, Joe, refreshed me, was about 7 minutes into the session, maybe even 8 minutes into the session. So they were kind of patient when that green flag actually flew, let the Porsche Boxer, that number 12 car, go out there and, you know, maybe even clean off the track a little bit before they brought out that Corvette C8. And then as soon as they turned that first flying lap, it was purple, 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 purple. I don't think it stopped being purple until the cool down lap.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. It was on it from the word go. And I think we kind of expected it once we started to see those times drop in. In the meantime, it looks like Jonathan is ready to go. Let's head down to him with our pole award winner.
Aaron Lichty, the inaugural pole sitter for the ZR4 class. That's got to feel pretty good, starting in the best position for ZR4.
Yeah, always. Feels the same as it did at the start of the day. So it's a good place to start tomorrow.
The race pace in the C8 Corvette is clearly there. What type of a race car do you think you're going to have over the pair of 7-hour contests?
I guess we're going to learn tomorrow. So it's a big learning experience for us. Put a few more laps on the car today than we maybe normally would on a test date, and that went well. So we'll hopefully put 7 more hours worth of laps on it tomorrow.
A nice gap between you and second place. Was there anything left in the lap as far as you're concerned there?
Nothing that I'd want to put out there on, at the beginning of the weekend. There's 14 hours of racing to go this weekend if things go well. So I think you want to put in a representative lap, but I don't think you want to throw it away.
Always a good sign, guys, when you have maybe even a little bit something left in the tank. Congratulations.
Sure. Catch you.
Thanks, Jonathan. So, yeah, not a good sign for everybody else, Joey, if you're that quick. By the way, green flag is officially out, and we have started the session for ZR3. I see at least 3 cars immediately out. So that's a good sign that we're getting a little bit more activity at the beginning of this one. We are rejoined once again in the ZR3 class, of course, by all the various BMWs, but also from back at VIR, the Porsche Cayman of the NRG racing team returns. And then in Camber Performance, Janetta is also coming back this weekend.
So these cars just a little bit faster in terms of their horsepower to weight ratio, the capability of the lap time just a little bit quicker. They're going to be a little bit faster down the straightaway. Is going to have a little bit more grip in the corner. Just kind of overall a little bit more speed. And it's kind of back to what you opened this show with, Joe. Now, we did have a little bit of some non-BMW cars out in that, call it ZR4 class, but lots of BMW heavy here in ZR3.
That is for sure. The 85 out on circuit with Manley, it looks like, in the car. Gino Manley currently kicking them off. And then heading down into Canada Corner, this is the 392. Ramirez currently behind the wheel of that car. Sergio gave us some impressive runs last time out at VIR. Is returning to try and apply his hand here a little bit farther north as he's going to start his first flying lap. Going to be the first car to actually get one going in the ZR3s. And now he unleashes that German power up the hill.
We'll see what kind of sector times that these cars are making in terms of the previous class that we just had out on the racetrack. I was jotting down some notes over here on my side of things. It was about 66 seconds for sector number 1. It fluctuated a little bit as that kind of session went on and the lap times continued to drop, but I'm just curious how fast that Corvette is when it comes time to the multi-class racing. Is it going to be mixing it up with, call it, the back of the class with ZR3? Are the ZR3 cars going to just run away from the ZR4 competition? Because got to remember, too, this is the first time that this class that's on track right now has had to deal with a slower class of cars when it comes time to race.
You're right. And hopefully the drivers are at least practiced at this point with all the different laps that they've had in testing and lead up to this one, and won't tangle with each other too much. Continue to ride on board with our first driver, hopefully to set a time as they go through Sector 1. And you were saying 66 seconds? Well, looks like it's about 62 seconds on the first try for what is still our currently quickest car in that first sector of Ramirez.
And in my opinion, that's exactly what you want to see. Just a good handful of seconds in terms of the gap between the classes. That means it shouldn't be too difficult to navigate their way around when a 3 car comes up on a 4 car and they've got to get around in one certain section. I think when we get to the actual racing tomorrow, though, Joe, it's going to be, where is the grip level changing? Because they should be relatively similar through the corners, but there are some areas at Road America, for instance, right here, where it's going to be single file.
It's a good point. Gino Manley's the closest so far to that 102 first sector, and even still, it's showing about 2 seconds off. So once again, we have a car that is far and above, away from everybody else, but that was a little bit away from the apex too, so maybe Ramirez pushing it a bit much into Canada Corner that time.
That's where the fastest top speeds are here, is going into turn number 12, and the first lap time is on the board for Sergio Ramirez, a 229.3. That is, in fact, faster than the ZR4 car. So that's exactly what I wanted to see, Joe, is that it certainly seems like Zenith Racing Series has come out here, brought in a brand new class, and have clearly separated it from the ones that are already on the racetrack.
Yeah, you want a little bit of distance between them to kind of help out the interaction between them. One of the things that we saw a lot back at VIR was that ZR2 and ZR3s, honestly, at times we're winding up a little bit close on lap time in some places. But as we watch, first 3 times on the board are varying quite a bit. 229 for our fastest for Ramirez. Taylor in the 777 at a 238.8. But it looks like Colin Garrett has just put one on the board down to 234.6. We're seeing 9.5 seconds between our quickest and our slowest time so far of the 4 cars that have taken to the track. And actually, just realized we've got a whole bunch more than those 4 that I'm seeing on my track map right now. So I think it might have all 9 actually out there.
Yeah, I think the only car that I don't see registering right now might be the 69 car. However, you're right. At least 8 cars out there on the racetrack. A nice busy 4 miles of racetrack out there in Wisconsin. Right now, we've got our cameras right here on this Ginetta, this G56 car shown, driven by Tom O'Gorman. And if that name sounds familiar, very experienced road racer. So if you're looking for a driver to really wring the neck of a car, why not bring in a veteran like Tom?
100%. These Ginettas, it's been unfortunate because I've been really enjoying watching them race out there with all the BMWs, but they've seemed a bit fragile at times, running into issues as the endurance races go on. Pace seems to be there, but the Camburn Performance Machine is absolute being wrung through the corners. Let's see what kind of lap time O'Gorman is able to set. He was quickest of anybody in Sector 2, crosses the line, and he's quickest of everyone over the entire lap by over a second.
Wow, that was an awesome time there from the 177. And I actually have a question for our... I've also got a little bit of a question kind of about this car, Joe. This was the car that was actually up in ZR2, correct me if I'm wrong, competing against those other BMW GT4 platformed cars. And it certainly seems like the Camburn Performance crew maybe have adjusted some things and brought it down into what is ZR3 at Road America.
Yeah, I'll have to double check. You might be right on that front. In the meantime, let's head down to Jonathan. He's over at the Open Throttle Racing team to get some more information.
Yeah, fortunately, unlikely that the number 69 car, at least the one we saw this, will take part in this session. That's because it suffered a minor fire in some of the testing and practice laps this morning. The driver aboard in that session reported a bit of a fuel smell, parked it in pit lane, front of the car went up ablaze, and that car is no more. Good news for the Open Throttle crew. They do backup cars at the ready. It's just a matter of getting those cars ready and prepped for qualifying. Of course, the focus is on the race tomorrow, but unlikely that we will see the 69 car in this session given the fiery issues this morning.
I'm just really glad that everybody is okay after that. The last thing we want in racing is a fire. It's always one of the scarier aspects that can creep its way in. Of course, they take all the precautions they can to make sure those sorts of things don't happen here in ZRS. Colin Garrett, by the way, just went up to 3rd fastest in the 9.4 Motorsports machine. So great lap there from that BMW.
About halfway through this 20-minute session for ZR3. Of course, each one of these classes has 20 minutes of green flag track time. Call it a few minutes in between each one of these sessions. This car right here is BMW taking a right off of the front straightaway. They're going to be entering pit road. Joe, you had mentioned pit road. It is all the way uphill, so you definitely can't get your fuel numbers wrong. However, the other thing that I think about when it comes to pit road here at Road America is how long it is, right? It's got a ton of pit stalls, and where they actually have the pit lane speed limiter where it starts is very, very early in terms of that straightaway. So it can actually lead to excessively long pit lane times.
You're right. So that's going to mean that drivers and teams will want to limit their pit stops as much as possible. Looks like O'Gorman's bringing the car in. Ramirez, by the way, reset his personal best. Still stays in second, so didn't improve position. Down to 0.2 within striking range of O'Gorman. We'll see if that brings the 177 back out on track. As we heard, the tires, always a big talking point in this series. You don't want to use up the rubber if you don't need to. So if Camburn Performance feel confident that they can hold on to that pole, you want to try and keep the car parked.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that tires are always the name of the game. It doesn't matter if it is a 30-minute race, if it's a 7-hour race, if it's a 12-hour race, or if it's even longer, like we're going to see a little bit later in the year. The more tire that you can save in any of the sessions, the better off you are when it comes time that you actually need to lean on it. And of course, the nicer you are to any piece of equipment, right? The longer it's going to last. And when you actually need it, it should still be there.
Right now, as we watch the 777 come around, Big Mission Motorsports, they sit fifth with the quickest time of a 2:38.0 currently. Taylor inside that car as he brings it down the Moraine sweep once again to the braking of turn 5. That's the end of the first sector for them. And that was at a 1:07.6. That's a bit off of the sector times we're seeing from the fastest cars. Could still try to make it up. Another great thing about having such a variety of cars that are eligible in this series is you could see some cars be massively stronger in certain parts of the lap and then suddenly lose all their time in comparison to their rivals in other parts.
The only problem with that is that Road America heavily dominated by straightaways. So if you've got a car with some good oomph under the hood, you are looking pretty good when it comes to this Wisconsin racetrack.
All right. Well, he's coming around through the carousel now. And actually, I'm showing that as the 96. So I wonder if that is a bit of an error. No, excuse me. That's not the 777 that we were watching a little bit earlier. This is the 96 coming through turn 8. And this is down now through the carousel. This is Colin Garrett in the 9.4 Motorsports machine that we are watching. And they're coming out onto one of the critical exits, which leads into the kink. If you can put any downforce on the car, this is the spot where you want it. Coming into this swift right-hander, and then he disappears into the forest.
You see yellow sector number 1, yellow sector number 2. That means it's just not as fast as what Colin has gone previously, right? It doesn't mean that it's a slow lap time out here. It just means that it's not the fastest his personal sectors have been. So we're going to see about the number 96 right now, currently sitting in what is third place with a 2:31.327. That's the fastest lap time, a 2:31.563. So that's when those colors can be a little bit deceiving, huh, Joe? Is that, my goodness, it shows yellow. It shows yellow. It means that he's way off, but he was actually only off by less than a quarter of a second.
Yeah, and, well, they're going to park it anyways with 6 minutes left to go. They could send it back out, which, by the way, Camburn Performance did do with that 177. O'Gorman is back out on track as we watch the 69 machine come down to the braking here of Canada Corner and then start to accelerate away. Abdallah did, in fact, make it out on track. Interesting. Open throttle racing has managed to get the car in good enough condition.
Nicely done from the team, from the crew to get that car out there as we watch this go through turn number 14. The only car that I see, at least on our timing and scoring right now, is pit lane, is Colin Garrett in that number 96 car that we saw enter pit lane. Or not improve the lap time, I should say, and then enter pit lane. So here is Abdallah in the number 69 car. Even though there's only 5.5 minutes left in qualifying, I think that this is so crucial to get the car out there. If they've been working on it, even just as, call it a hardship lap, let's just make sure all the nuts and bolts are tight on this thing, that there's no smells coming out of it, that everything is just running properly. And then if you're able to put down a competitive lap time or actually even put yourself towards the front of the field, it's almost like icing on the cake at that point.
Yeah, you make a great point about this is essentially extended practice for them. This is testing to make sure that what they've done is correct. And yeah, if you don't get the track position, that's not great, but it is a 7-hour race. You're going to have time if you've got the pace in the car, if you've got the strategy, then hopefully it should all shake out in the end. It's just going to be a little rougher maybe at the start than you would have anticipated. Still seeing a couple cars improving. The 333 set a pretty good lap before last time, but it looks like they just had an outlap now. And then the 21 of NRG Racing improved to a 240.5 last time by. It still leaves them in 7th, unfortunately. And I just saw the 85 come into pit lane, and that's probably going to be too short for them to get back out on track. They'd have to almost leave now or within a minute to be able to start a flyer from here. Meanwhile, that 177 is being maybe held up just a little bit by the 69 because it seems like they have that BMW just in front of them through the carousel.
And sector number 1 for Tom wasn't too shabby. It was, call it 63 seconds. So I think it was relatively on pace. And I was actually questioning, why is O'Gorman back out there in the Ginetta if he's already on pole? And I think we got our answer, Joe, because just a minute ago, maybe even about 30 seconds ago, the 392 of Sergio Ramirez, who's only a quarter of a second back from that pole position, rolled out there on the racetrack himself. So I wonder if we're going to have a little bit of a showdown, a little bit of a duel here in the final couple minutes for that top spot in ZR3.
I mean, I'm absolutely hoping we are. It's looking good for a nice little duel for the pole position. And you were just talking about earlier how, we see a car that looks like it's off the time. And lo and behold, it is only 2/10 off or thereabouts. Well, that's pretty close to what Ramirez is off of the pole time. So it's not going to take much over 14 corners to find that little bit of speed to claim a quarter of a second. The 177 just started his lap. The 392 is actually coming down through turn 5. On screen, this is the 333 of Bruce Innovations. Right now, Barry behind the wheel of that machine. And they are on a good lap, it looks like. Set a personal best first sector.
That is Grant Barry driving that 333, like you heard Joe saying, and seeing if they can improve their lap time a little bit later into this qualifying session. Right now, their fastest is 238.797, so call it a handful of seconds off of our class lead, but Grant seems to be on the pace here through Canada Corner. And remember, the start-finish line way up on the front straightaway. However, the qualifying lap time line right about here in terms of that lap time for qualifying, and does improve. A 236.1 jumps them up to 6th in class, and crucially, enough time to actually go out there and do one more lap.
Yeah, exactly. Don't think Taylor in the Big Mission Motorsport BMW is going to be able to respond this time. But like you said, has enough to circle around one last time. Going to be their last lap. And so I can report that Ramirez is heading towards that start-finish line. Here is the lone Porsche, the 21. Currently sitting in 8th. NRG Racing needs a little bit here, but their sector times are looking pretty good. So I think they are about to jump up a number of positions. Let's see. It is going to stay down in that 8th position with a 239.4, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's Matt Geddes there in that 21. You had pointed it out, though. Green sector number 1, green sector number 3. So it certainly seemed to be putting a nice lap time together, but it wasn't enough to actually improve to jump up positions. And remember that black BMW driven by Grant Barry, that 333 that we were just watching a few moments ago? They actually just went green, personal fastest of their times in sector number 1. So maybe that final lap time will include a little bit more position to jump them up.
Session is about to end, and O'Gorman doesn't need to worry anymore. Wouldn't be surprised if they brought it down pit lane because Ramirez has already parked it. They were not able to close that gap that last time by. And looks like LaRue in the 85 also has brought it in. We do still have the 14, the 333, the 777, and the 21 on track. There you see the 21 hitting the brakes down into turn 5 now as the checkered flag is officially out.
Woo! Using up all of the racetrack plus some down there in turn number 5 was the BMW, kicking up a little bit of dirt there on the exit, and then the same thing up at the top of the hill, chasing this number 21 Porsche Boxster around Porsche Cayman around the racetrack. It's got the permanent hardtop, not the removable one. Nice heads-up racing here, though. Saw the BMW in the rearview mirror, realized they had a little bit more pace, led them through at what is turn number 8 down here. You see the checkered flag already up to signal the end of the session. But, Joe, you're right. Looks like Tom O'Gorman in the 177, that Ginetta, is going to be claiming our pole position in ZR3.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Grant Berry was not able to improve on that last lap, stays in 6th position. Taylor in the 777 Big Mission Motorsports car coming down to the braking of Canada Corner, now being followed by the 14 of Christian Blevins, not showing any improvement on the sector so far. Geddes, though, I was looking at the wrong spot, has also not improved on any of his sectors. So unfortunately, I think we're going to stay as we were, which means that Tom O'Gorman is going to be your pole sitter for the ZR3 class in our first race.
And I think officially everybody has crossed that timing loop line. Now, I say that, and the 177 has not crossed yet. However, they are in P1, so that shouldn't change anything. Great outing there for Camburn Performance, jumping down to ZR3 using that Ginetta GT4 platform and going to be leading that class to the green flag come tomorrow.
Let's cross our toes, fingers, and eyes that it'll be able to last the 7 hours, that they've been able to solve some of the previous issues that they have run into in the prior races, because it certainly seems like it is a very quick car. However, the BMW M3 of Sergio Ramirez, not far behind on single lap pace. This was our ZR3 qualifying that we watched. We do have to wait a bit, like you said, before we get to hear from Tom O'Gorman. They did go slowly over the course of the end of the lap. So while they didn't come in, I think they were well aware that they were safe and decided to save the tires. There's your results with O'Gorman on top. Sergio Ramirez for Harrison Motorsports in second. Colin Garrett with a great third place for 9-4 Motorsports. Juan Carlos LaRue Jr. for AOA Racing puts the 85 car into fourth. Christian Blevins for the other AOA car, number 14, places it in fifth. Grant Berry for Bruce Innovations manages P6. Daniel Taylor for Big Mission Motorsports was seventh. Matt Geddes in the NRG Racing Porsche in eighth. And Bassam Abdallah for Open Throttle Racing in ninth. 9 cars for this class that we should hopefully see take to the track tomorrow in race 1.
Just got to patiently wait now, like you said, waiting for Tom to come off of the racetrack and catch up with Jonathan and Sloan down there as our pole sitter for that ZR3 class. And kind of this is our little bit of an intermission break in between the classes as well. There's always 5 minutes for make sure that the course is completely clear, no obstructions out there before we send our next class out, which will be ZR2. Officially, Joe, halfway done through qualifying so far.
Exactly. Got 2 more of those classes to go. I can already see on some of our feeds off to the side that they are getting ready to line up at pit exit. So we should have some action on track almost immediately when that green flag comes out. And I'm going to knock on the wood nearest to me. This track, I've seen tear up a lot of cars in the past, and the good news is we haven't seen any of that yet so far here in qualifying. Sounds like there are a couple that have had issues in the practice, but at least here on Go Fast Day, they've kept everything in one piece.
There's a shot of our pole-sitting car there in ZR3. That is the Ginetta GT4 platformed car. Tom will be climbing out here momentarily. Basically, he's parked it just before the tech entrance building right there. This is where all the competitors have to roll the car up onto the scales, make sure that tech is happy with things like weight, ride height, make sure that it checks all the boxes that it needs to, and that everybody is playing with the same toy come time to play on the playground.
And we had to wait so long for the other class to clear the track. It's actually already started the green flag for ZR2. This one's seen a healthy field this time around. already working their way along. Porsche GT3 Cup going to be competing in this one. Got another slew of BMWs, but we've also got a couple more Ginettas, a G55 and a G56, as well as we have an Aston Martin Vantage returning once again.
A little bit more of that diversity out there on the racetrack between the manufacturers. Pretty cool to see so many different cars out there, not just, like you said, the BMWs earlier. Got a good plethora of, call it, different engine notes, different looking cars. And if you sit there trackside, I'm sure you're going to see a lot of interesting creations, especially as we get faster into these classes here, including, I believe that was one of the Retro Rockets machines that has been with Zenith Racing Series since the first couple of rounds out there, already starting to warm their BMW up.
7 of the 11 immediately came out onto the track. Still waiting for 4 of the cars to work their way out there. Hopefully should shortly. 11 is going to be a nice, healthy field to kick things off for this class this weekend as we watch through Canada Corner. And I believe it looks like we are ready to hear from our pole sitter in the ZR3 class. Let's head down to Sloan.
We are here with Tom Gorman, Tom Gorman, the former touring car champion and former Honda factory driver. Wait, so many different cars. The Ginetta feel.
It feels like a proper race car. I mean, it's the go-kart cliche is cliche, but I mean, the tiny little steering wheel, very little weight, manual brakes, very compact cockpit. I mean, it's like a proper race car. It's very fun.
That's awesome. Up out there, and then you kind of took a break for a little bit, and then we saw Sergio in the 392 kind of come up a little bit behind you. Why did you decide to go back out? Did you feel a little bit of pressure, or what was going through your head?
The team told me to, so I follow orders. But these 200 treadwear tires, no matter what you do, they're pretty much best on the first lap. I don't know if my fastest was my first or my second, but going out for another one was just a little bit of coverage. I don't think it was any faster, but luckily we got it.
Okay, what?
I had 3 bananas and a bagel from Quick Trip, the best gas station out there.
Not sponsored.
More bananas.
Not sponsored. What are you going to have for dinner?
Am I supposed to say something?
No.
I'm going to have the Paddock Club.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations, and we're super excited to see you out on the field tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
Thanks, Sloan. Already we got cars on their flying laps. Go ahead, Joey.
Joe, I love that Tom was a little confused there. He was almost wondering if he was taking a test there with Sloan. Am I supposed to have an answer for that one?
Didn't know I was supposed to keep track of that. I would probably have the same bemused expression on that one. There is one of our Ginettas out on track for our ZR2s, seeing some good lap times, or some good sector times, I should say, almost under a minute for our quickest. Ari Balog in the 290 Ginetta G56, just about to crack that 1 minute mark for the first sector. Let's see what the second one holds. Currently showing as our fastest out on track, at least through the first few corners. Now, how about the rest of it?
I also see that Matt Million is chasing that purple sector number 1 time, down by about a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half, as we go through the fastest section of this racetrack here. Turn number 11, the kink. The more speed that you can carry through that high-speed corner, it just translates all the way down through into this corner right here, Canada Corner. However, that's not what you ever want to see in qualifying. Side by side through a crucial sector, a crucial turn there on the racetrack. It's probably not going to be ideal. These cars will put down a lap time, but in terms of the fastest, they're going to be looking for a new lap.
Ari Balog's lap is very good, though. That 290 takes it to a 225.4 and is another driver about a quarter of a second ahead of the next car. Well, until now, Matt Million put in a 225.6. That's about a tenth and some change off the pole time, which around this track is very small margins. So top 3 split by just over 2 tenths right now. And still waiting for those cars to set a time. Looks like, yeah, they have now headed out on track. So I think we have at least everybody running, or most of them. There might be a couple that I'm seeing now have not entered the circuit. The 74 just crossed the line on outlap, starts there flying. That is LaRue in that BMW M4.
I see a very fast car out on the racetrack driven by Pat Wilmot right now. He went purple sector number 1, purple sector number 2, purple sector number 3. New fast lap from the number 18, a 222.5. That's the new carrot to chase. I do see that Ari Baylog, though, also just went fastest of all in sector number 1. So, Joe, maybe a little bit more of a calmer pace and call it ZR4 and ZR3, but once we hit the green flag in ZR2, these drivers and cars are ready to attack this track.
Very much so. Baylog, like you said, is trying his best to match. Has already gone better in that first sector. Coming to the end of the second sector. We're watching him on our screens now. He is that white Ginetta that we've been following around the lap. 54.4 is what Pat Wilmot was able to put down. Let's see, 54.9. That's a little bit off in comparison. It's going to come down to this last sector, and Baylog's going to have to make up a fair bit.
This Ginetta has been very, very fast here. 290 car going through what is turn number 12. Stand on the gas. This is the drive all the way up the hill, and we're going to see if Baylog can improve that lap time. He does. A 223.109 jumps him up to second in class, about a half second behind that Porsche GT3 Cup, driven by Wilmot.
But remember, it was about 4/10 off in that second sector, so now we know where Baylog needs to make up. It's pushed down by Million, who is once again going to be testing with that team this weekend. So yes, he's putting it on the grid, but they won't be scoring points. They're kind of an exhibition out there. Garton, in the meantime, is one to watch out for in that number 41 machine, trying to play catch-up. They're sitting in fourth at the moment. This is lap finishing for the 74 of LaRue. And wow, that one suddenly sets a marker in the sand, less than a tenth off of Wilmot for the pole.
And it was so sneaky because there was no purple for LaRue's lap time here. It was green, green, green in terms of the sectors, and just behind the number 18 goes even faster, a 221.6. So that was almost a full second faster from Wilmot. I was just about to make the comment about how close this BMW M4 was on that first qualifying lap, and then the Porsche just laid it down.
Wow. So Jorge LaRue is certainly looking like he is on it, as Wilmot is continuing to extend and try to make himself a little bit farther out of reach. Successful that last time, but we're seeing the lap times tumble each time around for these cars as they put the rubber down and the track continues to get quicker. Temperatures have only dropped by about 1 degree Celsius on the track surface, so it hasn't cooled dramatically, but hopefully that will help them find a little bit of speed, as LaRue went a little bit wide, had to collect the car coming off of turn 5 for a moment.
You're right. It wasn't necessarily their best sector number 1. So maybe this lap is going to be kind of chasing the tail the rest of it, and we'll see if he decides to abandon out of it or continue on as usual. A little bit of a similar story right there in that corner. Turn number 8, just slightly off the apex. And as a driver, sometimes one of the most difficult things you can do is learn when to abandon your lap and when to kind of save the tires, reset everything for the next time by. Because sometimes you don't have that delta pulled up on the dash and you're just going purely by feel. So it's just one of those learning opportunities of, hey, you know what, if I don't have necessarily the optimum lap time going, should I back off, completely reset the brain to go after it again?
Down to that braking at Canada corner, both of them way wide, so I doubt these are going to be quick laps for either the 74 or the triple four as they come over the crest. They'll have to set up and try again. Not seeing much in the way of changes as off goes the triple four through the final turn. That's going to compromise the next lap, but thankfully it looks like they kept it out of the wall.
A little bit of a close call there, like you were saying, for the triple four. So thankfully, no serious damage or anything like that in qualifying. Remember, the main goal is, of course, to place your car up as far as you can on the grid, but got to make it to the green flag. That is, of course, the primary goal of what we're doing here right now.
Andrew Heffering with a real moment there, but some time left to try and improve. Matt Million and the number 95 didn't get a purple first sector. In fact, looked a little bit off, I think, compared to the competitive times. Could be trying to cool it down and then come back at it again. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of cars looking like maybe this is them backing off to try a little bit later and see if they can get a real push lap. Now I'm finally getting some green, and that's from Ari Baylog in Sector 2, and purple in Sector 1 for Pat Wilmot. That Porsche GT3 Cup is suddenly lighting up again.
Pretty fun to see that car. That's the first time that we've seen that number 18 in the ZR2 class in terms of the competition for Zenith Racing Series, and it seems like the bar has been stepped up just a little bit more here. This, of course, is that very familiar light baby blue, the number 95, driven by Matt Million currently. Joe, you had touched on it. Out here in qualifying, setting some lap times down, but it's kind of more for the testing purposes, the data purposes than anything, especially with how strong the ZR2 class has become.
Waiting for that 18 to cross the second timing line here to see how it's going to look for this lap. Not improving, but still a decent one of the 54.4. It was kind of plugged up between a couple cars as well. The 67 in front, and then we saw Heffering in his Bruce Innovations car have an off right in front of him, so that could have slowed him a little bit, although I say that he did go purple in that first sector. Let's see what this last one holds as we watch Matt Million carry on down into turn 3 across the timing line for the 18. Did not improve a 2:22.2 that last time. Still an excellent lap, and they're going to still be a full second ahead of the 74.
Just saw the 41 car of Retro Rockets pull it into pit lane. They seem to be done with qualifying. Number 95 car is out there in sector number 2. Just saw one of the Bruce Innovations cars here on the front straightaway. I believe that's the 444 machine. Currently sitting in what is 7th place in class. Last lap time was a 2:38. I think their fastest is down at a 2:31.2. So that kind of goes to show you that there's a few different approaches in qualifying, especially with drivers still out there with a handful of minutes left. Some of them cooling everything down, some of them on off laps, some of them talking to their crew, trying to gear everything up for maybe one final push at improving positions.
Speaking of pushing, coming down the hill into turn 5, the Bruce Innovations machine trying to test the limits of that 90-degree left-hander. So watch the 67 of Browning come around as well, just following at a decent enough distance. The 290 last lap, not an improvement there from the Ginetta. Baylog with a 2:23.1. Still has time to come back around. The 95 is going to cross the line looking very, very fast and actually goes back up into second once again. In the meantime, Barbary in the 94 is going to follow in that sister car, but I'm not showing anything all that quick except for the final sector down to a 28.9. So they found time right at the end, but that was not enough to improve their 6th place. We have since lost 3 cars to pit lane. Wilmot, Baylog, and Alsup have parked it.
They do have a little bit of interesting news because there are 11 cars at least entered here on the timing and scoring pylon. A few of them not necessarily running them. Medusa Motorsports in that number 40 car just got word that they're just kind of fixing a little bit of a mechanical issue with the engine and making sure all the fluid capacities, the fluid levels are right on that car. So they should be there for the green flag tomorrow, but not going to be participating here in qualifying, especially with only 4 minutes remaining.
Sometimes you got to make those decisions and figure out.
I say that, and Joe, I do see him out there on the racetrack at least right now. It's just that they haven't actually put down a lap time.
Okay. And it sounds like we might have information from Jonathan. Jonathan, what you got?
Yeah, just a little bit of a tidbit on that number 40 Aston Martin GT4 car from Medusa Motorsports. Used to seeing that in IMSA competition, the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and now lending the talent to the Zenith Racing Series. Had some woes this morning, actually overfilled what is a brand new engine from Aston Martin in the front of that Vantage GT car with oil, and subsequently had to burn all of it off. We saw a great big plume of white smoke over the pit building and thought, my goodness, someone must be on fire. No issues, no one was injured, there was no fire, they simply had to spend some time burning off that extra oil that was overfilled in the engine before they could dyno the car, something that GT4 cars, at least homologated GT4 cars, are not necessarily designed to do. Went on, did its proper testing, went through tech with no problems, but I do wonder, and this is purely speculative, if that played into any of the fluid issues that they're dealing with right now.
That's actually a pretty good call on that one, but we can't know for sure, at least for now. Been kind of watching Heffring out there along with Baylog because they were very close on track and we're not seeing good times from either of them, so they may have been compromised on this one. We'll have to focus on the next lap. This is Barbary in that 94, also on a bit of a cool down lap. Let's watch and see if they park it after this or if they go for one more push, because definitely are not going very quickly, and they're not taking off here, so I think that orange car might be coming on in.
I have a feeling you're right. I think they'd already be on it going through turn number 14. Just some more information on cars that aren't necessarily running out there. I had mentioned the Retro Rockets car, the number 41. That's H.A. Alsep behind the wheel. The team very, very happy with their lap time in terms of qualifying, so they said, you know what, AJ, go ahead, bring the car back into us. We are satisfied with a top 5 starting position for tomorrow.
So now we're down to only a few cars left on track. Baylog in the Moorhead Speed car is going to stay out there as we see him climb the hill, so that looks like that is him going for it. Browning, by the way, in the 67, I think has brought it behind the wall. As I saw them, well, they're showing stopped on track on our timing and scoring, but I watched and they kind of exited off of our track map, so I think they're getting some work done potentially. And now we are down to one car on track because the last other car on the circuit has parked it. So for the 290 team, they got a circuit all to themselves.
And I'd be a little bit worried if I was some of those cars directly in front. I know that one of them is the number 95 car, but from all the info that we have heard, at least they will be starting the race. Now, the 290 that we've got on the screen is 1.2 seconds off of the pole time. I wouldn't necessarily be aiming for P1. I would be aiming for those next couple of cars because LaRoe, only 0.2 of a second up the road. Million, only another couple of tenths of a second up the road. So I think that a very Baylog can improve by, call it 0.4 of a second, maybe a half a second. It can jump from P4 all the way up to the front row.
First sector wasn't bad, but also not a personal best. Not a good sign to kick things off. Let's see if the middle part of the course sees any sort of improvement. This is down through that long right-hander of the carousel, incredibly long corner of the circuit that also drops away pretty heavily as you plunge downhill, and then you hit the kink as well. This is where that timing line is, and it's again not a personal best. Checkered flag officially is out. I'm going to expect that we'll see Baylog bring it in here.
Yeah, if he doesn't bring it in, that's totally okay to complete the lap, but I'm with you. It's not a personal fastest in the first sector. The second sector, I'm comparing it to all of the other cars that are, call it a little bit faster, and they are all, call it half a second faster or more, and there kind of shows you 0.3 off of his fastest. Baylog going to bring it in to pit lane this time that the checkered flag is out.
There is our pole sitter, Patrick Wilmot, in the Porsche GT3 Cup from Kingpin Racing. And they have managed to set a time of a 2:21.601. Of course, we still have one more class to go. The ZP2s will take to the track. That will be interesting. As we saw back at VIR, those are very fast cars, but they get all their speed essentially from the downforce that they apply. They don't have a whole lot of grunt underneath them. And at a track like this, it will make for some interesting dynamics. There is your results. Patrick Wilmot, your pole sitter. Matt Million, second. Remember, that car is going to be an exhibition run only. Jorge LaRue in third for AOA Racing. Ari Baylog from Moorhead Speedworks. They will be fourth. AJ Alsop in the Retro Rockets Racing, number 41, will be fifth. Ian Barbary in the 9-4 Motorsports in sixth. And it's Andrew Heffering for Bruce Innovations, seventh for him. Michael Browning for Open Throttle Racing, eighth. Ethan Sterling in Medusa Motorsports brings that car to ninth. And then LaRue and Pacelli 10th and 11th, failing to set a lap time as we get some visuals of Patrick hopping out of the car. He's got to be pretty pleased with himself.
I would be, after putting it fastest out of anybody to have seen the racetrack so far here on a Friday afternoon. Putting that Porsche GT3 Cup car in front of everybody else in that ZR2 class, I'm sure is a pretty good feeling. And Joe, you had opened up the show talking about the draft, right? And if that's going to be worth anything. We haven't really seen it come into effect in any of the production car classes so far. However, I think once we get to these ZP2s, there might be a few teammates out there trying to take advantage of it.
That's a good point. It could really be worth something. We're seeing about 9 cars show up for that session, which is going to be kicking off shortly. We will have a nice little chat with Patrick in just a moment as he's heading over to our celebration area for the pole sitters. And we'll get to hear how he feels about bringing that car up to the top step. Looks like he is ready to go. Let's head down to Jonathan.
Wilmot from Kingpin Racing crowned the pole sitters at the very least ahead of the first race of the weekend tomorrow. Parked the car nice and early. How confident were you in the lap?
Yeah, I mean, the teammates, got to say thanks to them and thanks to the Applegate family for making this happen for us. And, we've been here for a few days. Things went really well, as you can see. Hope to keep that up for 7 hours tomorrow.
It's one thing. Ace, how was the race pace in the GT3 Cup car?
I think we're going to be just fine. I'll leave it at that.
Nice, simple, but lack of speed. Congratulations. Beautiful.
Thanks for that, Jonathan. ZR2 Pole Award. ZP2s are already lined up on the pit exit, waiting to be released. And these are some fascinating cars. These NPO1s that we've been watching all season put on fantastic racing, some incredible battles between these cars. And I love watching how much the drivers have to ring these things, and especially knowing how important that straight line speed is. The corner exits are going to be wild to watch, Joey. They have got to be taking it to the absolute limit.
And I think we're going to get our answer of if we're going to have teammates work together. So you see all of these cars lined up in their grid boxes right now, just kind of patiently waiting to click over to what is 4:35 local time, and then they will be getting the green flag. They'll be released out of the pit stalls. You see the number 908 right there from Automatic Racing in front of this 4-car queue. But those 3 cars behind, I know they're painted differently, but those are all team cars. Round 3 racing. We'll see if they work together. There's the single number 3 car out. So, Joe, I think that answers my question already. Everybody has got their own plan.
They really do. And yeah, they're all heading their way out pretty quickly, though, and trying to put a lap down in these machines. Will we see any shenanigans trying to get some draft, get some extra speed out of them around the circuit? What kind of lap times will we get to see from these cars? This is supposed to be the fastest class, but without the oomph underneath the engine that we see in some of the ZR2s. What will the ultimate time be? Remember, they're going to be so quick in places like turn 7 at the Hurry Downs, through the carousel, in the kink, and then, of course, the final corner in what is this qualifying session, Bill Mitchell Bend. That's another one where some downforce on the car is a huge help, and that could be important for starting the lap, just making sure you carry your speed up and over that. They certainly don't seem to be worried about trying to find themselves some space on track here, Joey.
No, 3 cars running together. You got to remember, this is the outlap right here, so nothing up for grabs until we actually start our first official lap at that timing loop coming up out of in between turn number 13 and 14. So everybody going to approach it a little bit differently. I certainly thought with those 3 team cars lined up in their pit stalls that they would exit together, but that wasn't the case. Those 3 cars that we saw lined up nose to tail in the previous shot were not in coordination in terms of the team game. Separate teams between all 3 of those cars.
All season long, we've been seeing some fun names show up in this class. This is a very good car, a very good class for drivers who are trying to work their way up into prototype racing, but also single-seater open wheels as well. We've seen some drivers hop over from Formula 4, try and race in these and find some success. Also learn a few lessons as well, I think we could say, over the course of the season. But they're still nose to tail. They've just started their lap, so these drivers seem relatively happy trying to run in the hole of air being punched by those in front.
I've got a big smile on my face because, yeah, everybody's got their own idea. This will be interesting. 3 cars drafting each other going down into turn number 1. So the number 3 car of P's, that's the white and red car that is, I should say, was leading the train and pretty much gets demoted to 3rd in line. I think that's the 77 of Ethan Barker now with that primarily pink front splitter, kind of leading this train of what has become now 4 cars exiting turn number 3.
This honestly reminds me of Spec Racer Fords around here, which have competed pretty frequently, except there's a whole lot more power in these things compared to Spec Racer Fords. So maybe just a little bit of a different complexion on the racetrack. Moving up to the front of the group now, we once again see a swap around down another of the long straights of the Moraine Sweep, and now things will start to get a little bit twistier here as they will ride down the hill through the Hurry Downs, but the 4 following just behind the 3 relatively closely. There's those teammates you were talking about, maybe trying to work together a little bit now that they've hit the hot lap.
Well, you mentioned it. The number 4 car is purple, sector number 1. We haven't reached the sector number 2 timing loop yet, so the white and yellow car, that's the number 4 car, at least in terms of this first lap. Number 4 is leading the way. We're about to cross into what is sector number 2, so we're going to get a handful of lap times kind of popping up right here on who is fastest. And number 4 car, not fastest overall in sector number 2. It's actually going to go to the 109 of Roberts. I believe that's the car that's leading the way, the burgundy colored machine.
Interesting. So that call to use the slipstream, a very good one there from Roberts. Let's see what his lap time ends up being as they get their first ones on the board. A 2:22.8 is 0.8 quicker than Bellarmine in that number 4 car. I'd say that 109 is looking very, very quick to start things off. You can see they've got a new little bit of runoff on the outside of the final corner that's been added this year. These cars very much needing to carry that speed over that grasscrete to have the run up the hill.
I want to point something else out right now. The number 59 is on the racetrack. It currently shows Dakota Dickerson inside the cockpit right now, but the 59 on a completely different strategy than the rest of the cars. Everybody, when the green flag dropped, went out on the racetrack except for the number 59 car. The 59, look at this. Nobody in sight, nobody out the front, nobody out the back. That means Dakota here, he has a completely clean racetrack. He doesn't have to look in the mirrors. He doesn't have to talk to the team. He can solely focus on the driving performance. And you know what that means, Joe? Purple Sector 1, Purple Sector 2. We're about to see a new leader.
Unless he completely flubs this, and from what we've been watching on board, I don't think that's going to be the case. Across the line, it is down to a 2:21.3. This was the right call. We thought there would be all kinds of crazy stuff going on trying to pull the slipstream, but Dickerson says no, clean track is king. 1.5 seconds faster than Roberts.
And you can get caught up in the draft game, right? You can get caught up with, okay, I've got the draft down the front straightaway, but then you get held up in turn number 5, or you get a monster straightaway run through the kink and towards Canada corner, but you get held up in turn number 13. So playing the draft game, yes, it can make you go faster. However, it is a lot easier to explain it than it is to actually go out there on the racetrack and execute it.
Coordination is key, I would think, and when you're not doing it with a teammate, it's going to make it even harder. And when it is with a teammate, it's still, like I said, that's not simple. We've seen major teams at the top level of racing falter with that many times. There is that current pole sitter of Dakota Dickerson down through turn 5. Right now, there's a whole lot of cars improving lap time, but none of them with purple sectors. They're just simply getting closer to Dickerson. Belleman gets it to almost within 1 second, down to a 22.4.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was like 1.3. Now it's down to 1.1. So right now, the 59, easy, class of the field. They've got the speed. We're going to see if they've got the race pace and the strategy when it comes to the 7-hour races and executing that. A little bit of a familiar story from what we've seen all year long here with Zenith Racing Series, isn't it, Joe? Is that this 59, you are going to have to beat Stratus Racing if you want to win here.
Absolutely. As he comes down through the kink once again. Purple first sector. Second sector was...
I think he's off of it.
Okay, so he has decided to back out maybe at this point. Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and that doesn't look like he is hustling the car into Canada corner. Started out very good, though. Maybe decided it wasn't worth trying to risk the car through the rest of it. Let's see if he picks it up here.
I'm with you. And the way he chucked it into Canada corner signals to me that he wanted to run up the hill, so it looks like he's going to go for another lap time here. Does he stay on driver's right side? Nope. So what that tells me, remember we were watching some cars earlier and I had kind of described it can be difficult to know when to give up a lap. Dakota Dickerson, very, very familiar with how to make speed, how to go fast on a racetrack. And obviously he felt that, you know what, maybe the run through 3, maybe the run through 5, wherever it wasn't what he was looking for. So he completely abandoned that lap, reset his brain, reset his race car to go after it for a completely new lap.
Also worth mentioning as we ride on board with the 77 here, Shane Roberts has kind of backed off from the rest of the field around him. So I wonder if he's trying to get that clear track to help out. At the opposite end of things, the 77 has nobody in front of him. Ethan Barker getting ready to cross the line, sitting on a 2:23.0 the last lap. Was in second briefly, but Belleman takes that front row spot right back. They're down to within nearly half a second of Dickerson. So glad to see that Dakota has stayed out. As I kind of wondered with how much gap they have, if they'd attempt to park it and then see how the rest of it goes. But no, they're going to keep in it.
And the thing as we watch the 77, Dakota's sector number 1 time, 10 seconds off of his fastest. So this lap that we were thinking that he was going to go for it is definitely another, call it, aborted lap right now as we continue to ride on board with Ethan Barker. The lap times in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, they're all just kind of shuffling, and we're only halfway through this 20 minutes.
Only on Friday are they shuffling, not every day, but they are certainly hustling the cars. Also, worth noting, I just saw a notice from Race Control that the 109 wasn't intentionally trying to back off of this group. He actually spun at turn 12, was able to get it going once again, but apparently a major mistake in his efforts to try and get a quick lap. Bellman with another personal best first sector, still nobody able to take that purple away from Dakota Dickerson. Thomas in the number 4 does have help from the 77 a little bit. There is that 4 right now in the yellow, and still sitting and chasing Ethan Barker just in front of him.
And he is close enough, right? These cars are very, very small when it comes to the aero profile. It's a little bit difficult when they are the only cars running out there on the racetrack by themselves. They all look very, very similar. But if you were to place it next to, call it, one of the BMW M3s or that Porsche GT3 Cup car that we just had take pole position in ZR2, you'll realize how small the actual aero profile, the cockpit of these cars are. So the closer you are, the more drastic that slipstream effect becomes. However, I do think the number 4 is at least close enough to have some of that air still be pushed along. So maybe not going to be gaining tenths down the straightaway, but maybe still a net positive.
Ethan Barker just went purple in the 2nd sector. What's the final sector going to be? He moves himself to 2nd and once again gets demoted. Thomas Bellman goes quicker and back up to P2. It is within a 10th now of Dakota Dickerson, who has not improved on his lap time for some time. This first sector is going to be telling for the 59 because they're just getting ready to cross it now as we watch that 4 cross over the usual start-finish. And it's a purple first sector for Dakota Dickerson, responding to the threat that is starting to evolve behind.
Not just a purple first sector, but that sector 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else out there on the racetrack. Now, the 59 did have 2 cool-down laps in the middle of it, while these cars that we're watching on the screen, they have been running non-stop. They have just been trying to improve their lap times, just a little bit of a different method to go about that. Some drivers, they like to go out there and get into a rhythm of things. They find that the more they are in that rhythm, the faster they go and the more they progress throughout the entirety of the session. Some drivers, they just know that performance level. They know that grip level, and they know when they overstep it. Obviously, the driver inside the 59 right now is completely understanding the car and wringing the neck, purple sector 2.
Remember, Ethan had that before in the 77, the Nimbus racing car. So it's been handed back over to Dickerson once again. Can Ethan respond? And what's this lap going to look like for the 59? It's looking likely that it'll be even quicker than before, unless, again, there was a mistake, and there was not. He is purple all 3 sectors down to a 220.7 first driver to crack under the 221s.
So what was a 10th and a half, that was the gap between first and second, now up to 0.7 of a second there. Fantastic lap from the 59. Certainly seems like right here, the number 4 visually definitely further back, and you can kind of see sector number 2 a little bit off of the pace in comparison to the other cars on the racetrack. Definitely the 77 still on pace, though. Purple sector number 2, and Ethan Barker improves his lap time, puts that car from Nimbus Racing up on the front row. Lap time of 2:21.3.
Thomas Bellman has been snatching that second place from everybody that tries to take it for quite some time in this qualifying, but he won't do it this time. And it does look like he backed off on that last lap, as something must have gone a little bit awry. In the meantime, 5 minutes left in this qualifying session. The chances for a hot lap are becoming precious few out there. If you've got a chance to get some of that clear air, you might want to try and take it now. We're on board with that 59 car of Dakota Dickerson. Another purple first sector, now to a 1-flat-6 as he crossed. He is still continuing to improve each and every lap down to the apex of turn 8 and then switching it back around for the carousel.
He is definitely hustling this car. We'll see how long we can ride on board here. I know sometimes these in-car cameras, once they get to the far end of the racetrack, you had mentioned all the tree coverage that we really have here at Road America. It can kind of play a little bit of chaos with some of the reception that we get from everything, especially even radios. And Joe is already off of the throttle, so even though he set purple sector number 1, didn't quite feel right with something there in sector number 2, and has backed off of this lap.
So maybe just needs a little bit more on this one if he wants to try and extend his gap, keep himself clear. I mean, it looked safe early on, and then now it's suddenly cut down. Those behind him finding time through various corners to try and see if they can snatch that pole away. Does look like he's on it as he starts a new lap now, coming around onto the main straight with about 3.5 minutes left. Oh, but he is not going to stay on the track. He brings it into the lane.
Yeah, it brings it down, like you said, into pit lane. It almost seemed like Dakota Dickerson was giving us his best Dikembe Mutombo impression. He was letting everybody get oh so close, and then he's saying, nope, not today, as he snatches away pole position time. Anytime anybody had a sniff of getting that P1 position, Dakota was able to go out there and lay down an even faster lap time. Ethan Barker right now, 5/100ths of a second away. This is as close as anybody has been yet.
Is that move overconfidence for Dakota Dickerson? 0.05 of a second is very, very close. In fact, he took the quickest sector 2 of anybody, which has been a trend for Ethan Barker for pretty much most of this qualifying session. 130 miles an hour here, coming up to the braking zone for the 908 of Brandon Kidd, and then slamming on the brakes into turn 1, slinging it through there, trying to see what he can make up for this 5th position and go that little bit higher up the grid. 77 of Barker is still out there. He's just completing sector 1. That is not going to be purple. It's not even going to be green for him, though.
No, it's 0.3 of a second down on what Dakota had put down in that same area of the racetrack. And I think if there's one shining light at the end of the tunnel for the 77 is that if he doesn't get it done on this lap, I still see 2 minutes on the board. So he will at least be able to start another one if he can't accomplish it this time.
That's the good news. So question is, will he need to maybe back off, cool the tires off a little bit, go for it once again? If he feels like this one's not going to be good enough, we still wait to see what Sector 2 shows as we watch with the 5 car. This is Pease and that round 3 racing machine. And the 77, not showing an improvement in Sector 2 either. So there's that one last chance you mentioned, Joey. He's going to need it.
Carter P is going through the kink here. He is only, call it 1/4 of a second back from the car directly in front, driven by Brandon Kidd. Automatic Racing and their effort currently hold that top 5 starting position that Carter right now is trying to take away. Last lap time, or I should say fastest lap time from the number 5 is a 2:22.69. If he's able to improve it by a couple tenths of a second, he can jump up that one spot, but doesn't look like it's going to happen this time by.
I'm also curious to see which drivers do stay out here. And it looks like Carter is going to be amongst them. He carries on. Watching the background, I see at least one in. That looks like Brandon Kidd in the 908. Settles for 5th at best. Roberts in the 109, also settling for 4th place as he parks it with not enough time to get back out on the track. That looks like we will see roughly 5 cars try to take the final flyer as the checkered flag now comes out.
I think my main area of interest is definitely the 77 car, who is going through turn number 5 apex right now, just going to start to climb the hill towards what is turn number 6. And the reason why I say that, only 0.05 of a second off of our fastest time in ZP2, and Ethan just went personal fastest in sector number 1. He is heading down the hill right now to what is turn number 8, as looks like Carter Pease here in the number 5 car is going around one of the heavy braking zones and now starts his climb up the hill.
Now, Joey, did you mention that Dickerson got back out on track? Because I just noticed the 59 is on a flyer. He's already had his outlap, so we were not paying attention on that one. He saw that 0.05 of a second. Team probably said, get back out there. We are not safe up at the front.
And the 77 of Ethan Barker is through the kink right now, coming up to what is Canada Corner. And I think that if Stratus Racing is watching live timing and scoring, they see that sector number 2 was not an improvement for the number 77. And so now we just patiently wait as Ethan climbs up the hill. He's going to go through turn number 13 and go through this timing loop here momentarily. Does he take the top spot away? No, he doesn't.
Unfortunate. He was pushing as hard as he could. So for now, Dakota is safe from Ethan. Thomas Belleman is still out there in the 3. So is the 4. The 4 of Belleman, rather, I should say. The 3 of Brad McCall also still out there. They're coming to the line now as they cross. I'm not seeing any improvement on any of the sectors. And it does look like the 3 cut down to a 2:24.3, but they will stay in 7th. Carter Pease, the last across the line. Nobody in that group other than McCall managed to go quicker, unfortunately.
Pretty interesting stuff, though, Joe, because the last lap time out of Ethan, I know it didn't grab him the top spot, but it was 0.2 of a second faster than what Dakota was able to go out there and try to put down. I think we've got some very, very close race-paced cars for this weekend.
And that's what we want to see, some tight competition out there. Dakota Dickerson on the pole position with a 2:20.742. Ethan Barker, so frustratingly close, a 2:20.797, but that'll be the front row. Thomas Belleman in 3rd for round 3 racing, the highest of that team. Shane Roberts for Roberts Motorsports will be in the 109. And 4th, Brandon Kidd for Automatic Racing manages a top 5. Carter Pease, the next of the round 3 cars, good enough for 6. He'll be followed by his teammate Brad McCall in 7th. Clay McGurrick was 8th, and then obviously you can see you have 2 cars with that name there, not going to be sharing a driver at the same time. Then Ben Waddell will be the last of them. None of those last 3 setting a time during this session. Dakota Dickerson, in the meantime, just getting ready to hop out of what is probably a pretty warm cockpit at this stage, but it'll be refreshing to know that they took the pole. There he is.
High fives all around. I'm sure he is one happy driver right now, getting all the safety gear off. Probably cool down just a little bit and then be able to walk over and have a chat with Jonathan and Sloan here momentarily. But talk about an A-plus job when it comes to the strategy of that qualifying session, right? Went out there, was able to put down the fastest lap. And why did they put down the fastest lap? Because they weren't involved in traffic for those first, call it 2 or 3 laps out there. They were able to put their driver out in clean racetrack, just focus on hitting their marks, and that's exactly what Dakota did.
That was our last qualifying session, but we're not done yet. He's on his way over, Dakota, to be interviewed for the overall poll as well for tomorrow's event. So excited to hear how he feels about it. Looks like Sloan has caught up with him now.
Dakota, oh God. That speed.
I think it all came from the Stratus 59 car. I think Ryan did some setup tweaks before we went out there. kudos to the team. I just kind of pushed the pedals, turned the wheel, but the boys back in the tent did all the hard work.
Saw him set a really great lap. What was going through your head when you saw that time go up there? You were like, I got to get back out there, or talk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like we had a pretty good lap early in the run, and then Ethan was getting quicker and quicker throughout the quali session. Pretty good lap. I think we were only a few thousandths off of each other. I actually ran out of fuel a little bit, so we stuffed a little bit more fuel back in there, tried to do another run. Didn't go any faster, so I'm glad that we got the lap in when we did, but it was a lot of fun, and kudos to the 77 car and Ethan as well.
You're like, oh my, well, you got the best.
Feel great. It's awesome. I mean, it's an amazing atmosphere here. Kudos to the whole Zenith Racing team, everybody from catering to up in race control to you and the camera crew here. Awesome job, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Well, congratulations. Be out there tomorrow. Back to you guys.
Thanks for that, Sloan. Well, it was a fun one out there, but we wrap up the racing action for today. Again, it is not over because race number 1 happens early tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central, is when we go green flag here for Zenith Racing Series at Road America. Make sure and tune in.